Hi everyone. Today I am going to explain HCL Java intro questions. So recently one of my colleague attended the interview at HCL. So he had a 3 years of experience, and in the interview they're asking like nearly 20 Java intro questions. I collected all the intro questions and I prepared the answers for the same questions. So now I am going to explain the each and every question with answer. So in the first question they are asking what is singleton class in Java. So the answer is the singleton class means it allows us to create only one object for that class is called singleton class. That means if you make any class as singletons, so it allows to create only one object. If you try to create more objects for the same class, it's not allowed to create the second object. It's a pointing to the same object. That means suppose if you are trying to create more object for the same class, but it is not allowed because it already created the object. That's why it is not allowed. For creating the singleton class, we have two steps are there. One is the write the private constructor and write the static method that has a return type object of the singleton class. So coming to the example, so how we can create a class as singleton. Suppose this is my class contact Java class. So this is the singleton class. I want to make it. So here I am creating the one private static variable contact Java equal to I am assigning the null. So here I am creating the private constructor. So because of this private constructor, it is not allowed to create a more than one object. So here we are creating the static method. In the static method, we are creating get instant method is the static method. So here we are writing if contact Java equal to null. That means so first time it will check if it is a null. So it will create a new object and it will return the same object. Suppose if the contact Java as already as object, so that time it is not creating the new object. So here just it is checking the null. If it is null, so that time it will create. If it is not null, it's not create the object. So coming to the main method, so here I am creating the three objects for the contact Java object. So contact Java object one equal to contact Java dot get instance. So here I am here also I am creating one more object object 2. Here also I am creating three objects. But if you see all the three objects are pointing to the same object because it's not allowed to create the object. So next question is what is user defined or custom exception. So the what is custom exception means the exception which are created by the programmer is nothing but a user defined exception or custom exception. So that means the exception which are created by the programmer is nothing but a user defined exception. So how we can create a custom defined exception. So here this is my custom defined exception. So insufficient amount exception. So if you want to create a custom defined exception, we have to extend the exception as the super class. So here I am writing the one public constructor insufficient amount exception. I am passing the string as argument. Here we are passing the super of string. So here we are creating the test class for the same exception. So here I am writing the one method called validate method. So in this validate method I am passing the amount. It throws the insufficient amount exception. So here we are checking. So if amount less than 20,000, that time it will throw new insufficient amount exception. So it will go to the here and it will coming to here and it will print the this custom like message amount is insufficient. This string will pass to here and it will print into the console. So here we are writing the main method. In the main method we are like calling the validate amount method. So I am passing the 20,000. So if the 20,000 is less than amount, so that time it will raise the insufficient amount exception. If it is greater than the amount, so that time it is not throwing the exception. So that is the user defined exception. Like coming to the third question, so they are asking the about static keyword. So here they are asking what is static. So what static means, it is a keyword which is mainly used for memory management. So mainly in Java we are using static keyword for memory management. We can apply static keyword for variables, methods, blocks and classes. So coming to the variables. So if you declare any variable is as a static, then it is known as a static variable. So when we create a static variable, then single copy of variable is created, which is shared by the all the objects. So the static variables occupies memory only one in the class area at the time of class loading. So the classic like the static mainly used for memory management. So the only if you create the static keyword static variable, the memory is occupied only one time. So for each and every time the same variable we can use in our class. Next is the static method. So if you apply static keyword for any method, then that method is known as static method. For calling the static method, we no need to create object. We can call the static method using class name. So generally how we can call the methods like object dot method name we are calling, but in case of static method no need to create the object, just we can use the class name dot method name we can call it. So without creating object is if you create the object the memory is allocated, but in our case we are not creating the object, so because of that the memory is saved. So what is static block? The static block is contain the set of statements which are executed by the JVM before main method is executing. Suppose if you want to execute something before executing main method, so those things we can kept into the static block. So what is static class? If you declare any class as a static, it is nothing but a static class. Generally, we can declare inner class as a static. We cannot declare outer class as a static. So next question is what is final, finally, and finalize in Java. So what is final? Final is a keyword which is can apply for variables, methods, and classes. So if you declare any variable as a final, so that variable cannot be reassigned. So if you declare any class as a like a final, so it cannot be inherited. So if you declare final for methods, it cannot be overridden. So coming to the finally, so the final is a block of code that is followed by the try and catch block. The finally block always execute whether exception is raised or not raised. Generally finally block allows you to run a cleanup statement. So finally is the block especially we are using in a exception handling mechanism. So the hierarchy of the keywords are try, catch, finally. So the if you even though the exception is raised or not raised, the finally block is executing at least one time. So generally we can write the cleanup code in a finally block. So coming to the finalize method, the Java finalize method of the object class is used with garbage collector. So always call just before the destroying the object which is eligible for a garbage collector to perform cleanup activity. Cleanup activity means closing the resource associated with the object like database connections, network connections. So generally this finalize method is called by the garbage collector before the object is garbage collector. So generally we can write the cleanup code in the garbage collector. It will clean the database connection, network connection, which are cleaned by the finalize method. So next they are asking what are the bin scopes available in Spring. So in the Spring mainly there are 5 bin scopes are available. One is the singleton scope. So this is the by default it is the singleton scope. Next is the prototype. Third one is the request, fourth one is the session, and fifth one is the global session. So we can give that much answer, right? What is difference between singleton and prototype scope in Spring? So singleton scope means when we define a bean with a singleton scope, the container create a single instance of the bean. All the requests for that bean name will return the same object. It's just like a singleton class. If you assign the singleton scope, it allows to create only an object for any number of requests. Any modification to the object will not reflecting all the reference bean. This scope is the default where value is no value if no other scope is specified. That means suppose if you are not defining any scope, so the Spring container will take by default as a singleton scope. So what is prototype scope? The bean with a prototype scope will return a different instance every time it is requested for the container. Suppose, but in case of singleton it will create one object, but in case of prototype for each and every request it will create a separate object for the request. So coming to the seventh question, so what is dependency injection? So this is mostly important question in Spring. So for each and every interview, they are asking this question. So the main idea in dependency injection is that you don't have to create your object, but you just have to describe how they should be created. So that means, so instead of we are creating the object, the Spring container will create the object and it will provide for us. So for that, what we should do, like we have to just to describe the how we can inject the one bean into another bean. That is the this meaning of the dependency injection. So next is the types of dependency injection in Spring. In Spring, there are mainly two types of dependency injections are there. One is the constructor injection, another one is the setter injection. So constructor injection means IOC container invoke the class constructor with a number of argument where each argument represents as a dependent on other class. So coming to the setter injection, Spring container call the setter method on the beans after invoking the no argument static factory method to instantiate bean. So next ninth question is what are the annotations you have used in your project? So like generally we are all are like using like some of the main annotation in Spring, like we can use @controller, @request mapping, @autowide, @service, @repository, @configuration, @component scan, @component, Spring Boot application, @enable auto configuration, @rest controller. So these are all are the related to Spring and Spring Boot. So frequently used some of the annotation we can say like. Next is the Spring Boot benefits compared to Spring. So like if you see the like benefits of Spring Boot when compared to Spring, so it is that create the standalone application with a minimal config. So but using Spring we cannot create the standalone application, but in case of Spring Boot we can create the standalone application. So it has a embedded Tomcat Jetty which makes it is a just code and run the application. So in the Spring Boot, like it embedded Tomcat is there, like inbuilt Tomcat server also is there or Jetty is there. So because of that, so just we can just write the code and we can execute in the Tomcat server. So that means externally no need to download the Tomcat server and we can add the server is not required. So it automatically it has a Tomcat server. So optimize the starter dependencies to simplify the build application and configuration. So in the Spring Boot we have a starter dependencies are there. That means in the pom.xml file we can so like we can copy all our required jar files into the pom.xml file, so it automatically run the program. So no need to download the jar file externally. So if you mention in the pom.xml file, it will like from Maven repository it will download all the dependencies. Provides a production ready features such as metrics, health checkup, and externalized configuration. This point means like in the Spring Boot it provides the like metrics, health checkups, and all these features in the Spring Boot. Automatic config for a Spring functionality. So in the Spring Boot, like in the Spring, like each and everything we have to configure in XML file, but in case of Spring Boot no need to configure in XML file. So each and everything should be in a annotation based configuration. So next 11th question is Spring Actuator. Spring Actuator is the additional feature of Spring. That means it helps us to monitor the manage your application when you push it into the production. So it's just like a feature of Spring Boot or Spring. So this actuator main purpose is it will get all the production information like it how many times the request came and what is the health checkup and what are the like CPA usage and what are the HTTP protocol issues and it get the like gathering the like different information. So this is one of the feature of Spring Boot. So how like 12th question is how to microservice communicate each other. Spring Boot support calling one REST service to the another REST service using the REST template class. So we can use REST template class to communicate one microservice to another microservice. So it's like this is the example I have given. So I want to get the employee details from the other microservice. That time I can just create the employee object. REST template we can use to get the communicate the one microservice to another microservice. REST template that get per object. So this is method. So this URL is the So second microservice URL, this is the target class name. So here we are communicating from one microservice to another microservice. So what is cache in Hibernate? So cache is the strategy for improving the application performance by pooling object into the cache. So that the queries are executed faster. So this cache main purpose is instead of we are going for each and every request to the database. So once we make a request, so the result will be stored in a cache. So second time if you fire the same query, that time the request is not going to the database, so it is getting from the cache. So first it will check in cache. So if the result is available in the cache or not, if it is not there, it will go to the database. If it is there, so it will get the data from the like cache. So in Hibernate we can use the different types of caches next question is types of caches in Hibernate. So in Hibernate there are two types caches are there. One is the first level cache, another one is the second level cache. So what is first level cache? This level is enabled by default. So the first level cache is by default enabled. It is first level cache reside in the Hibernate session object. So always inbuilt the first level cache is associated with the session object. So since it belongs to the session object, the scope of the data stored here will not be available to the entire application. Application make use of multiple session object. So this cache is only within the session. That means the scope of the singleton cache is only within the session. Once the session is closed, the cache also disappeared. Coming to the second level cache. Second level cache reside in the session factory object, and due to this data is accessed by entire application. So in second level cache it is always associated with the session factory. That means for each and every application one session factory is there. So because of that we can use this second level cache entire the application. So this is not available by default, it has to be enabled by explicitly. So just like a first level cache, it is by default enabled, but in case of second level cache we have to write the XML based configuration to enable the second level cache. So next EH cache, like these are the different types of caches available in a Hibernate. Frequently used cache are EH caches, frequently we are using. What is the difference between load and get in Hibernate? So this is the most important question. Like each and every interview they are asking difference between load and get. So coming to the points, I have a different points. Load method return a proxy object and load the data only when it is required. So the load method always return a proxy object. It's not return the original object. So whenever it is required, that time only it will load. So but in case of get method, get the data from the database as soon as it is called. So when we fire the query, the get method always get the data from the database. So load method hit the database only when it is required, needed, and this is called lazy loading. So load method just like it follows the lazy loading, but in case of get method hit the database every time method is called. So this is the eager loading. So this is always hitting to the database. But in the case of load, it's not into the database always. So whenever it is required, so that time it is like going to database. So load method throws object not found exception if the object is not found. So in case of load method, so if the object is not available, that time it will throw the object not found exception. But in case of get method, return null if object is not found. If you use the get method, if object is not there, so that time it will just return the null pointer exception, null object it is returning. So what is microservices? Microservice architecture treats each function of an application as a independent service that can be altered, updated, or taken down without affecting the rest of the application. So that means, so in the olden days we are using the monolithic architecture. So monolithic architecture means so each and every, like all the modules we are kept into the single project and we can run the project in a server. But in case of microservice we can divide the each application as a different modules. For each and every module we are creating the one single microservice. So this is the microservice we are using. Because of this, so it will save the money and time and different things you can save it. So what are the advantages of microservice? microservice has multiple advantages are there. Application is broken into modules and loosely coupled components. So microservice, we can split the each and every module and we can make it as a loosely coupled components. Application can be distributed across the cloud and data centers. So because of this microservice lab application, we can distribute the application into the cloud environment and data centers. So adding new pieces only require this individual microservice to update the updated. So network service must be software defined and runs as a fabric for each and each microservice to connect. So these are the advantages. Coming to the 17th question. So this related to database they are asking. So what is join? Join is used to combine rows from two or more tables based on the related column. So generally we are using joins to basically to fetch the data from more than one table. If you want fetch the data, we can use joins. So like they're asking what is inner join. Inner join is a keyword. Select the record that have matching values in both the tables. So in both the tables which are the matching records are available, it will fetch the matching records. What is left join? So left inner join returns all the record from the left side table and matching record from the right side table. So that means, so the left join always you get all the records from the left side table and only match record from the right side table. So coming to the right join, so in the right join it will get all the record from the right side table and only match record from the left side table. So next they are asking what is difference between union and union in Oracle. So this is the union. Union perform a distant on the result set to eliminate any duplicate records. It has a default feature to eliminate the duplicate record from the output. It performs slow because it takes time to find the removing the record. So basically the union can be used to remove the like duplicates and it will fetch only unique records. So we can use like this is the syntax to get the unique records. Select a column list whatever the column list you want from table 1 we can mention. So here we can use union. Select column list from table 2. So this will get the all the unique records. So what is union all? Union all does not remove duplicates and it therefore fast than union. It has no feature to eliminate duplicate rows from the output. Performance is fast because it does not eliminate the duplicate record. So this means, so union all allows both duplicate and unique records. So because of that it is the faster because it does not find the duplicates and remove. So because of that this union all is faster than union. So syntax is like this only. Select column list from table 1 union all, select column list from table 2. So it will get all the records, even duplicate also. So the 19th question is what is difference between function and procedure? So this is the most important question for each and every interview. They are asking this question. The function must return a value, but in stored procedure it is the optional. So a function always return the value, but procedure is the optional. It may return value or may not return value. Even procedure cannot 0 or n values. So function can have only input parameter if it is, whereas stored procedure can have input and output parameters. Like if you take the functions only it has the input parameters, but in case of procedures it contains input and as well as output parameter. Function can be called from the procedure, whereas procedure cannot be called from the function. So function we can call in a stored procedure, but we cannot call the stored procedure in a function. Function allows only select statement in it, whereas procedure allows select as well as DDL commands, DML commands, insert, update, delete. This statement we can write in a stored procedure. It cannot manage the transaction inside a function. So in a function we cannot write the transaction, but we can manage the transaction inside a procedure. In procedure we can write the transaction related like queries. So next 20th question is a final question. Write a query to find third highest salary in a EMP table. So this is the query. We can find out the third highest salary. Select the top one salary from, this is the inner query. Select the top 3, select from EMP, order by shall, descending order. So order by shall, ascending order. So this will get the third highest salary from the table. So friends, don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching this video.